If I had to go back to the very first day I got admission to study medical laboratory sciences in the university, this is what I would do differently based on the knowledge and experiences I have now. My name is Pikes, and I studied medical laboratory sciences at Nnamdi Azikiwe University in Nigeria, Awka to be precise. On September 2019, while sitting down in my room, a friend called me on phone. I could remember that day. I was lying down on top of my bed. I think I was scrolling through YouTube or one social media like that. Someone called me on phone, a friend of mine, and asked me, "How far? Pikes, have you checked your JAMB caps?" I was like, "What is happening?" He said, "They've started giving admissions." I rushed in and checked my JAMB caps, and lo and behold, I was offered an admission into medical laboratory sciences. What was written there was, "Hi, Ikeji Ikenwachukwu Promise," because that is my full name. "You've been given an admission to study medical laboratory sciences. Accept or reject." Reject? If you are applying for JAMB or you've applied for JAMB and you were given medical laboratory science, you might be excited, some might be dejected, because I know a lot of people that was given admission into medical laboratory sciences and that is not their first choice, of course. Some people were going for medicine, nursing, others were going for, I think, pharmacy. But when they saw the medical laboratory sciences in their JAMB caps, some were devastated. They felt like the whole world has been, has turned against them, something of that sort. But I was one of the happy ones because I actually put medical laboratory sciences as my choice, of course. So if you are one of those, either you applied for medical laboratory sciences or they gave you medical laboratory sciences, this video is for you. I remember being exactly where you are right now. That was 2019, September 2019. I have just been given admission and I had a whole lot on my mind, how I'm going to go through med school, how I'm going. In fact, I was much more excited than the average person getting medical laboratory sciences. Before then, before I even applied for medical laboratory sciences, I have never heard about this course before. In fact, I thought that the courses in the health sector was just medicine, pharmacy, and nursing. I never knew there were things like med lab, physiotherapy, anatomy, physiology. Those things were very new to me. But immediately I got to know about them, I applied for medical laboratory sciences. I have to be frank with you, initially I wanted to be a pharmacist. In fact, I wrote JAMB 3 times. I graduated 2016 from secondary school. My first JAMB, I didn't remember what actually transpired, but my first year I decided not to, go into the university. I had to go to pre-science and studied 1 year. After that, I wrote JAMB, applied for pharmacy. I was given zoology. In my 100 level zoology, I wrote another JAMB and I was not given admission. Then in my 200 level, I wrote JAMB. So while I was about to enter 300 level into zoology, I was offered an admission into medical laboratory science, and that was the first time I applied for JAMB, putting medical laboratory science. The JAMBs I wrote before then, I applied into the pharmaceutical sciences, but I was always given zoology or botany. So in this video, I want to explain what medical laboratory science is all about and also clear some of the doubts or some of the questions you might have about medical laboratory science. I know that by now, if you are already, or if you've already gotten admission into medical laboratory science, or you are trying to write JAMB and you've been asking questions about courses like this, especially medical laboratory sciences, I am very sure that you have heard a lot of stories. And what I'm going to do in this video is that I am going to demystify some of these questions and some of the answers you must have gotten prior to this video, because I remember them while I was asking questions. I had a lot of things. In fact, there were a lot of stories. It was when I entered the university, went through it and came out, that I understood how the system actually works. And in today's video, I am going to make sure that you leave here with a conviction in your heart First of all, let us talk about what medical laboratory science actually is. Medical laboratory science, or biomedical sciences as it is called in other countries, except from Nigeria, obviously. So, medical laboratory sciences is a profession that deals with diagnosing using samples such as blood, tissue, fecal matter, that is your feces, and urine samples. There are other things that can be used by a medical laboratory scientist to diagnose a patient. MedLab is not all about wearing lab coats and carrying test tubes up and down. MedLab is a core foundation and structure in the health sector, because without medical lab scientists, most doctors are moving or entering blind. At its core, medical laboratory science is the science behind diagnosis. The one thing I will tell you is that medicine does not move without the lab, because let's say that you got sick, or your parents, or let me use you watching this video right now, you got sick and you went to the hospital. When you consult with the doctor, most of the times the doctor will tell you to go and do a lab test. He will give you a written note probably, or refer you to a lab where you are going to run a test. And after the test is being run, you come back with the result to the doctor. The doctor looks at the results, and from there he knows either what is wrong with you or the pattern of treatment to take. So medical laboratory science is the backbone of diagnosis. In fact, what we call it while we are in school is the bedrock of modern medicine, because without the lab, I always say it's without the lab, medicine does not move. Another thing you should know about medical laboratory science is that most of the times you don't get to see patients eye to eye, because the patients we see are mostly samples and tissues. You don't mostly see sometimes you don't even see the patient. When the doctor refers the patient to the lab, a phlebotomist collects the blood sample and sends it to you as a lab scientist. So most of the times you don't even get to interact with the patient, apart from, let's say you are doing private practice, that is you have your own lab and then the patients come to you maybe through a doctor. That is the only times you might be able to see a patient, but in most case scenarios you don't get to see your patient. Now, since I have already explained what medical laboratory science is to you, I want to get into the second part of this video. The second part of this video is all about demystifying some of the stories or the myths you've heard about medical laboratory science. Believe me, while I was researching about medical lab science, I had a lot of things. In fact, some of the things I had almost deterred my spirit from applying for medical laboratory science, but in the end I applied and now I've graduated. So what I'm going to do in this video is that I'm going to demystify some of the stories you must have heard, or the ones you are still going to hear. So when you hear them, you can tell yourself from this video whether it is true or false. So the number one myth that we are going to demystify today is the course is impossibly hard. I hear this a lot. In fact, while we were in school, it got to a point that even some of us, like some of our classmates, we are also saying it, this course is too hard. And maybe you yourself will say it's one of these days, maybe when you get there. The truth of the matter is, MedLab requires hard work. It requires you to put in your time. MedLab, it is tasking, yes, but impossible, no. I don't want to sound all motivational, but if I could do it, you could do it, because believe me, I am not the best of the best. What you require to go through MedLab is a reading habit. You must form the habit of reading, and I'll warn you, if you are the type that don't like reading, you just want to go to school, do your things, then towards exam, probably 2 weeks to exam, you now come back and start reading your book, I will advise you do not cross medlab because you will not survive. You will not survive. The course is not hard. It only becomes hard when you underestimate the course. The number 2 myth that we are going to demystify is that you must be a genius to survive. This and the number 1 myth is almost the same thing, but it is not really the same thing. People say that you must be a genius to survive medlab. It's a lie. If it is the truth, then you are looking at the dumbest genius you've ever met, because I know that I am no genius. There are 3 things. In fact, these are not just 3 things. This was my motto through school: grit, grace, and grind. If you look at the artwork behind me, you'll see it written there: grit, grace, grind. This was what carried me through school. Grit is perseverance. You will be stressed. A whole lot of things happen in med school. You will be stressed. You need grace because, believe me, there are certain times that you will read, you will study and everything, but then it is not, in fact, this is not your doing. Sometimes it might be a mistake from a higher authority, probably your lecturer, but then the mistake affects you. That is why you need grace, because I have seen it happen to lots and lots of people. Then grind is hard work. I cannot emphasize this enough. I don't mean that you should kill yourself and read every day. No. But at least create a study time that will help you, finish up your courses 2 weeks before the exam. There are some people that start reading 2 weeks to exam. Instead of 2 weeks to exam, you must have summarized everything that has been done throughout the semester. Have a small summary book. And maybe in later videos, I'll talk about how to practice in med school to survive the stress and the rigorous work ethic that is required in medical lab science. But in today's video, I'm just going to demystify all of these things. You don't need to be a genius to survive medical laboratory sciences, because I am here. I'm a graduate. I have graduated from medical laboratory sciences and I'm currently working as a medical laboratory scientist, and I was no genius. All it required was for me to do what I'm supposed to do at the right time. The third myth that we are going to demystify in this video is there are few or no job opportunities for medical laboratory scientists. Crazy. This one is misleading, obviously. I'm going to tell you why. You know why? I inducted on the 5th of September 2025, and I started working on the 1st of October, less than 1 month after my graduation. So when you hear this when you hear this, you just look at the person, and in fact, you don't need to say anything because the course talks for itself. Medical laboratory science is one of the widest field in the health sector because it encompasses research, hospital management system, blood banking, you can name it, even private practice. There are a whole lot of opportunities in medical lab science, even in academia, because the people that teach us medical laboratory science are actually medical laboratory science that decided to move into the academia. As a medical laboratory scientist, you can either work in a hospital, private or federal, or you can go into private practice, which is owning your own lab, or you can decide to venture into research. You don't want to do bench work. I used to tell my junior colleagues while I was in school that medical lab science is not all about working on a bench. Medical laboratory science is very diverse. Like, you have a whole lot of opportunities. If you see chance to travel out of this country as a medical lab scientist, my brother, you are in soup. When I mean you are in soup, I don't mean you are in soup in a bad way. I mean you are in soup in a good way. Like, you are in ofe soup. Like, you are gonna make money. But that's not what we are getting to in this video. I just want to demystify some of these stories that you are going to hear, because some of these stories you might even hear it from medical lab scientists, but I am here and I'm a medical lab scientist. Just graduated. I'm waiting for my internship, and but I'm already working. So if someone like me who graduate from medical lab science and get a job at a lab, although it's a private lab, pre-intern, I've not even done my internship, but I've already started collecting salary. That is to show you that med lab scientists are needed. Then, finally, the last myth. The last myth says everyone fails. You know why this myth is very funny? Let me sit up and talk about this. This myth is funny because seemingly it may sound true, but it is untrue. Let me tell you this story. When I entered 100 level, I became the course rep of my class, and I was a course rep till I graduated. I got to know different individuals in my class, and there was this particular guy, very smart guy. His name was Henry. He was very smart. From 100 level down to our 400 level first semester, he never had a carryover. He was that kind of guy, and I don't think there was any semester he got below 4 points. We use a 5.0 GP, but there was no semester he got below 4 points. I was the course rep, so I was able to know about all this because sometimes I get to see people's results. What happened to him was that in our 400 level second semester, we were supposed to write our professional exam, the professional exams that is now going to usher us into 500 level. And in this 500 level, that is where we now choose specialties. This guy got sick. He got so sick that he was hospitalized for 2 weeks, and within that 2 weeks he was hospitalized, we wrote our exams, and he was not there to write the exams with us. And not just you, if when you get to medlab, you understand this thing. The council does not care. Their own is that they will make sure that the exam is written, and once it is written, it is written. They cannot call you back to come and set exams separately for you, for one person. They will take flights from Abuja and come to supervise only you. They didn't do that. So this guy had to repeat. He did not graduate with us, but he was a bright guy. So when they say everyone fails, this kind of story might clear the reason why the myth is there. It's not that everyone fails. I personally, from my perspective, if you look at it from my perspective, not everyone fails. I never failed any course. I never had any issues while I was in school. But that is because of grace. Remember my motto: grit, grace, and grind. You have the grit to persevere even when you are stressed to show up to lectures. You need to work hard and be consistent. But you see, grace is very important, because there were certain days that I was sick 2 days to exam. On the day of exam, I got well and I wrote my exam and passed. But I had never been sick during an exam. It takes grace. That is why I emphasized on that grace. Grace. Whatever you do, make sure that grace is there for you, because there are places your hard work will not speak for you. It is your grace that will speak for you. When you get into it, you will see that there are lots of issues like missing scripts, or wrong results. A whole lot of things happen. But what I want to tell you is that not everyone fails. Not everyone fails. So we have demystified some of the stories and some of the myths that you must have heard or will later hear. Now, let's get into what I would have done differently. So you have received your admission letter and you are about to start. The number one thing that I'll advise you to do is to take your foundational courses seriously. What do I mean by your foundational courses? I mean your anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. These are your foundational courses. We call it pre-med courses. These courses will follow you through your clinical years. The clinical years are your 300 level, 400 level, and 500 level. So these courses will take you through your clinical years. Why? Because if you Do not grasp what you are supposed to grasp at that stage that you are supposed to grab it. When you enter into the clinical stage, you might find it hard to adapt. And I'm part of those people that did not take my foundational courses serious. I'll be frank with you about that, and it affected my 200 level. Because if you see my 200 level results, that laugh that I just laughed now is what that is my result. My result was a joke in 200 level. So please take your foundational courses seriously, your anatomy, your physiology, and biochemistry, especially these two, especially, but anatomy too. Normally we only do, I don't know about other schools, but in Nnamdi Azikiwe University we only do anatomy 200 level, but chemistry goes with you all the way. It goes with you all the way to your final year. Not biochemistry, so to say, but clinical chemistry. Secondly, do not cram to pass in medical lab science. I'm not saying that if you cram you will not pass. If you cram you will pass, but try as much as possible not to cram. The reason that I say try as much as possible not to cram is because at a point you will find out that you are doing yourself more harm than good. Cramming is going to take away a substantial amount of progress from your life as a medical lab scientist. I noticed that some of the times, most of the times, I cram to write an exam to pass. After that exam, I forget everything about that. Something happened to me while I was doing my viva for final professional exam. We were taught about ketones in, I think, 300 level or thereabouts in clinical chemistry, and it was supposed to be a very simple question. In fact, when I wrote the exam, I aced it in my 300 level, but on the day of viva I was asked a question and I was so lost. The answer I gave them was very far away from the accurate answer. My supervisor was sitting there. He looked at me. He was like, it was appalling that a question as simple as that I could not answer it. Not because I did not, in fact, it's not because I don't know it or I have not read about it. But what I did when I read it was that I crammed, then went into the exam hall, poured it in there, and that was it. Because of that, it affected my viva exams in my final year. You can imagine my viva in my final year. So I'll tell you to try as much as possible not to cram. Try as much as possible to understand pathways, understand how systems work. That is where physiology in your fundamentals will help you. Understand how each system works. Focus on the fundamentals. Once you can be able to grasp the fundamentals and read to understand, you will not have issues as a medical lab scientist. The third thing I'm going to talk about is practical classes. Respect your practical classes. Normally you start your practical classes around your 300 level when you've already gone into your clinicals. By then you must have finished your pre-med courses and enter 300 level. In your 300 level, that is when practical courses start. You start going for posting. They might post you to your school's teaching hospital if your school have a teaching hospital. Like Nnamdi Azikiwe University has a teaching hospital in Nnewi. That's where we normally went for our postings. That one is just twice a week. Then 3 days for lectures, 2 days for postings. That was how we did it back then. So I'll advise you to take your practical classes and postings serious, because the difference between a good medical lab scientist and a bad medical lab scientist is practice. That is why it is a professional course. It is a course that requires you to constantly do, because to do is to become. If you don't practice your profession, you might know the whole theories. You might know that if you add this to this, you get this, or if you get this kind of results, that it is wrong, blah blah blah. But if you cannot do the practical to get that result, to get the accurate result that will be used to give an accurate diagnosis, why are you a medical lab scientist? So you might you might stay in your lodge or in your house, read everything, come to exam, write the exam, but when it comes to practical, you will fail if you don't actually go for practicals. And there is this thing about medical lab science: in our professional exams, the theory carries less mark than the practical. That is to say, if you fail your practical during professional exams, whether you have 70/70 in your theory, you are still going to fail. You are still going to repeat, because this is a professional course. The practical is what matters. So do not play with your practicals. So the fourth thing I'm going to talk about is building a reading habit. I started late with my reading habit, so to say. Through my 100 level, 200 level, and 300 level, I never had a reading habit. What I did is that I just read as the spirit leads. Whenever I feel like I'll read, I was never consistent with my reading, and it will tell on your results, unless you're a special kind of genius, you get. But if you are people like me, you might come to one particular semester and you not see one single A. Or there was one particular semester I didn't see one B. Or okay, I think I saw 1 or 2 B's in that semester, but that was the semester I had the greatest number of C's. I was just seeing C everywhere, you get. But if you have a reading habit, you are going to ace it. Let me tell you the story of our best graduating student. Her name was Mabel. So every time I see this girl, not really every time, but most of the time I see this girl, she is either reading or she's going to read. She had a very strict reading habit, and it paid off. It actually paid off, because she became the best graduating student in our set. So I had the opportunity to discuss with her one certain time, and she told me how she does it. She records lectures. While the lecturer is teaching, she's recording and she's jotting down. Then when she goes back home, she will sit down and listen to all those lectures and write down the things that she missed while jotting down in class. And then she reads those things and then still go back to do research via textbooks and other materials to enrich the lecture that was given. That was a very strict it was a very nice reading habit, and I tried it. It was not for me. So, but you have to build your reading habits. I know other persons that have different reading habits that were also top of the class in my set. So you need a consistent reading habit. It must not be strict, but it needs to be consistent. If you want to be reading 1 hour every day, but make sure that you are consistent, so that prior to the exam you won't be stranded. Or because during the exam, you see 2 weeks to exam, people are rushing to read, people are still going to find handouts that were released months ago. Please don't be like that. Don't do that. You will destroy your future. Take it from me. Finally, avoid comparison panic. That sounds nice, right? I actually came up with it. Comparison panic. That's what I call what I saw in med school. Have you ever seen these individuals that before every exam, they are always the first to come to the exam hall? They won't come with any book. They will be parading, looking for people that are reading. Then they'll be like, you are still reading. I've read this, I've read that. And it puts panic into a lot of people. I see people jitter the sound of that, like, oh God, what am I going to do? He will ask you, have you read this handout? You did not read it. Oh, you are missing a lot. When you start having comparison panic, you are going to do a lot of harm than good to yourself. Because I don't know how to put it, but I never had that issue, because I don't know whether it is because of how, probably, if you have your own reading habit, if you know what you are doing, in your secret place, you know what I mean by secret place. How do I put it so that you get it? In your secret place of reading, when you have burnt your midnight candle, I don't think you'll be able to have comparison panic. But I have seen people that actually burn their midnight candle, but they have comparison panic. One of them is my sister. Me and my sister did med lab. We studied med lab together, the same set. She caught up with me because I had to rewrite JAMB. In fact, she applied for nursing, but she got medical lab science. Unlike me, that applied for it myself, and she decided to stick with it. But she's a hematologist. I'm a clinical chemist or chemical pathologist. So my sister always have this comparison panic. She has this group of friends that are all of them are always jacking. They have strong reading habits, and towards every exam, these are friends who now come. They will start throwing questions at each other. I don't like doing such things. That is me. Someone else might like it, but me, I don't like doing it. I prefer read at my own pace, but consistently, then write my exam. Not reading because others are. Imagine I'm still reading page 2 of my handout. You're asking me something in page 70. Like, are you okay? Allow me to read. But people with comparison panic, when they start asking them those questions, they will become anxious, and they will start flipping through the book like, come on, calm down, get help yourself, calm down and read. When you get to page 70, you know what is in page 70 and you can be able to answer them. So take your time, and the only thing I'll tell you, the only way to avoid comparison panic is if you are able to create a good reading habit that you trust. I'm not talking about a reading habit that you yourself don't trust. Create the one that you trust, so that when you get to the exam hall, you don't depend on anybody. You write your exam, come out, and voila. Then I'm going to put a bonus, like call it a bonus point in this video. I know some of you here must have had some of these things I talked about before elsewhere, but I'm going to tell you one thing that you might not have had anywhere else. That is the things that are not classroom related. As a student, while I was a student, I was opportune to serve in different positions. I served as a course rep. I served as the SecGen for the MELSA SecGen. I served as a PEC member, that is the Southeast Executive Council. I also served as the first faculty president of my chapter. I actually did a lot, and I'm going to tell you this. While studying medlab, while in school, try as much as possible to develop other skills in your life. Skills like communication skills, social skills, leadership skills. There are a whole bunch of skills you should develop as a student. Don't just go through school. Let school pass through you. I see a whole lot of people that went to my school. There are people that are timid. Don't be like that. When you enter school, when you've already gotten admission, or you are planning to get admission into medical laboratory sciences, when you get there, don't be a backbencher. When I say backbencher, I don't mean those that sit at the back of the class. Those people are very good. In my class, most of those backbenchers are hot brains. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about floor members. Don't always be a floor member. You must not always lead, you get, but try as much as possible to be up and about and doing. Join societies. There is Rotract, there is mostly your association, NEMELSA, that is Nigerian Medical Lab Science Student Association. Join these associations, go on outreaches, go for conventions, go for competitions, do things that others are not doing. This is what will separate you from just a med lab scientist that graduated and a med lab scientist that knows their onions. So when I got into medical laboratory sciences, and before I even got into medical laboratory sciences, I had stories, some of which I came to know that we are wrong, which is why I did this video. But for me, what made the difference was not the admission letter. That was not what made the difference. That was it, my graduation. what made the difference for me was what happened in between the admission letter and the results. The admission letter and my induction. The in-betweens is what really matters, because let me talk to you motivationally. I don't like sounding all motivational, but there's something I want to tell you. The end product is not what matters. What matters is the process. Try as much as possible to enjoy and live in the process. If you enjoy the process, if you enjoy moving in the process, you will enjoy the result at the end more. You will be proud of the stories that you can tell. That is why I created this channel. This channel is called In Between Results with Pikes. In this channel, I'll be telling you throwback stories of what happened while I was in school as a med lab scientist and what is currently happening in my life as a medical lab scientist. And if you are someone that is interested in this kind of videos, I would like you to hit the subscribe button and also like this video, so that whenever we post a new video, try as much as possible to on your notification, so that whenever we post a new video, you will know that we posted a new video. This is not the last video I'm going to do. I'll try as much as possible to be dropping one video every week, and I believe that in the next 2-3 years, by then we must have gotten a whole lot of subscribers, and we'll take this channel to a higher place. I think I might even invite prominent people in the medical laboratory science profession to also talk on this channel, so that you will understand, you will get to see and enjoy the beauty of this profession. Then lastly, I'm going to talk to some group of persons that are here. I know that they are here and they've been watching this video. You applied for something like medicine or pharmacy, or you are giving medical laboratory sciences, and you do not want to study medical laboratory science for reasons best known to you. Probably you are not passionate about medical laboratory sciences. No problem. I think you should switch. When I got admission into zoology, a whole lot of people settled for zoology, but because I was not passionate about zoology, I had to switch to write JAMB and get into medical laboratory sciences. That is the way some of the people in my class also rewrote JAMB, entered medicine. Some of them even left the country to go to Europe and study the medicine, and some switched while in my department. They switched to medicine from our department. So if that is you, please up your grades. In your 200 level or 300 level, you'll be able to switch to the course of your choice. But while you are still in med lab, please click on the subscribe button and also like this video. If you like videos like this, I will also ask you to stick around every week. Once every week, we are going to be posting videos, and soon I'll be starting my internship. I'll be sharing with you what I am learning every day. I'll be doing a kind of video blogging that will encompass certain things we do in the lab that can also help you in case you miss your lab postings. I will also show you some of the practicals so that you will not fail, but make sure you go for your lab posting. Peace out.